Hello friends and welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Kings of Anglia podcast. It's the post-Easter edition. I hope you all had a fantastic Easter, ate a lot of chocolate and had a bloody good time, because you wouldn't have had much of a good time if you were watching Ipswich Town, sadly. My name is Mark Heath. I'm your host as ever, and with me this week, two wise men, the third one having another day off, relaxing after his long glamorous trip to Rochdale yesterday on Bank Holiday Monday. The man who accompanied him, he doesn't need a day off. Andy Hutch-Warren, how are you, my friend?
We all are. There are not enough days off in the world that could be offered in part exchange for what occurred yesterday. What a miserable Easter Monday that was. I think Stu deserves every moment away from it. I'm in a darkened room today. I've closed all my curtains. This is the only time I'll be talking about it all. So I thought we would record it. Yeah. There we go. Football,
You're decompressing. I was just saying before we started recording that I know you boys obviously get paid to travel and cover these games, but I'm not sure you get paid anywhere near enough, mate. I mean, I know the fans can't go to games at the moment, but they had a lucky escape yesterday. You boys had to travel 8 hours just to get there and back. That's just basic travel. And then you had to watch one of the worst games of football that anyone could ever see. Not a single shot on target from either side.
I don't know if I've ever seen that before, and I hope to never see it again. When we pulled up at Rochdale, we sat out. We got there quite early, and we sat out in the car park at Spotland. We parked next to a Ferrari, wishing that was ours. But we rolled up quite early, and we just sat in the car park and we talked. If in a hypothetical scenario where the pandemic was just over, they declared on Sunday morning, it's all over. Don't worry. Everything's open. Then an hour later, the club, Ipswich Town, put all the tickets on sale. We were pondering just how many people would have gone to the Rochdale game, and I honestly think they could have half filled the ground with Ipswich fans. I think that despite everything that's going on, I still think people would have rushed up there in their thousands to watch that. So I'm kind of glad they didn't. Because a game of football with neither team having a shot on target, that's misery.
It's so bad. It's almost impressive, isn't it?
What's the point?
What is the point?
What is the point?
The whole point of football is to shoot at goal and get it on target and score goals. So to have neither side managing that in 90 minutes, good Lord. Just out of interest, Hutchie, who's rocking a Ferrari to Rochdale? I mean, we're talking League One footballers here. Yes, they're still well compensated compared to the average mortals, but they're not paid enough to be rocking a Ferrari, I wouldn't think.
Was it Marcus?
Me just
use Google. It wasn't Marcus. We'll get on to him in a minute. Let me just use Google because it was a famous person, famous in the inverted commas. We were walking out of the ground and Stu spotted them, turned to me and said, "Look who it is." I had no clue.
Oh, can we do it? Can we do a guess who?
You'll never ever get it, but yes, please.
Man, male.
It was a couple, so we'll start you off with that.
Right, couple. TV presenters.
A TV couple. Yep.
Sort of magazine type shows. Do they do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever been on the One Show?
I don't know. I don't know. I think they might be.
Vibe?
They might. They are. They might be an ITV. Might be under contract with ITV. I don't know.
ITV. Do they appear together on?
Yes, TV? Very much. Very much.
It's not Eamon Holmes, is it?
No. No. Much.
Have I got too high there?
You will never ever get this.
Roscoe, any thoughts? TV couple, ITV?
I don't know.
Have you ever, reality TV? Are we talking?
No. Stu thought they were ghost hunters. They weren't. Shall I tell you who they are?
Yeah, because that's way out of my comfort zone. I've got no idea.
So they are the Speakmans. Are you aware of the Speakmans?
No.
Yeah, so there we are. But they must be doing okay. They're driving a bright red Ferrari. They're like a self-help therapists and life coaches.
Okay.
significant amount of plastic regeneration has gone on on both members of the couple, but apparently they're Rochdale locals, presumably fans who were at the game somehow, and sit on the sofa on this morning giving life advice.
Why are they allowed to go to the game?
I don't know. They might even be on the board. I don't know.
They got money. They got money. That's why.
Yeah, but there we go. That was perhaps the highlight.
We'll come on to marketing in a minute, but we haven't even spoken to Rossi yet properly. Rossi, how are you? On Saturday, you sent a message to the group chat saying you spent all of your day eating chocolate, essentially.
Yeah, that was the same on yesterday, basically, because when nothing happens, I eat more because if I've got snacks in front of me, and if nothing's happening in the game, I go, yeah, I'll have another one. Oh, still nothing's happening. So I'll probably put on a stone of all the Easter eggs. And Ferrero Rochers, my girlfriend's mum gave us some Ferrero Rochers, a big tray of it. So a lot of that was eaten. So yeah, I need to run off this chocolate, definitely.
Hutchie, how did you have a decent Easter? Obviously, you have a young child. Easter, exciting time because it's chocolate o'clock. Did you do any Easter egg hunts or anything like that?
Not a formal Easter egg hunt, no. But there was some chocolate. It was solid. She had enough chocolate.
Do you know what we spent our Easter Sunday doing? We put together a World Cup of deciding what our favourite dog's food is. We had 2 sides of the draw, 8 contenders either side of the draw. 1 goes through to a grand final. So we had fruit and veg on one side of the draw, savoury snacks and meats on the other side. And it turns out that B Unit's favourite food is broccoli. Raw broccoli was the winner.
Raw nice.
Broccoli. Yeah, he's a very health conscious dog.
There can't be that many World Cups that come out with a winner that's raw broccoli.
Exactly. We filmed it all as well. Video is out there. Probably we're not going to share it with the people. Just something for us to watch. But hey, it was entertaining Easter Sunday. What definitely wasn't entertaining were the games, Hutchie. We don't want to talk in depth about each game. So let's talk as a whole about the whole experience, the Easter weekend experience for Town. 2-1, they won. It's obviously the way we started this. It's you kind of need to remember that Town actually didn't lose over the Easter weekend. They got 4 points from 6 games. Not really enough. Yes, they were playing the bottom 2, but they beat Bristol Rovers 2-1 on Friday and then drew 0-0 at Rochdale yesterday, rock bottom Rochdale, which obviously was dreadful. So, Hutchie, kick us off with your thoughts, please.
We talk about, I think we probably use this expression every time we record one of these podcasts, talking about games in isolation. So, in isolation, 4 points from 2 games is fine. Do that. Even do that from this point on. And they could still make the playoffs. They could still make the playoffs on that.
Don't say it. Come on.
But this was a weekend against the bottom 2 at a time where a spark is needed. If we rewind to sort of 3:11 p.m. on Friday, the spark was there. Ipswich were 2-0 up in 11 minutes. And it looked rosy. It was a change of system. They didn't blow Bristol Rovers away in those 11 minutes, but that they were clinical without being exceptional. And it looked for all the world like they'd killed a game off early on and were going to go on and comfortably beat a team that they should comfortably beat. But on Friday, that didn't happen. As we've seen so many times, the simple act of conceding a goal, which happens to all football teams, threw Ipswich off hugely, and it rattled them, and they never got going again, and then ultimately ended up kind of grinding out a 2-1 victory over Bristol Rovers. And you come away from that thinking, after 10 minutes, I was hoping for so much more, but fine. Job was done. We know this team isn't free-flowing. It's not full of confidence, but they have just got 3 points. So you come away from that thinking, okay, I can live with this. And then you go to Rochdale and you don't register a shot on target, as we've already said. And quite honestly, they didn't really look like registering a shot on target either. And it just reminds you of the frailties that this team have got. I think they look scared on the ball. tentative is definitely a word that I would use. Even their players that you would look to try and make something happen in that team, they look tentative on the ball. The amount of times that Paul Cook turned around and yelled at his team, at his bench, the coaches, "We're shocking on the ball. We're just shocking on the ball," and they were. Just nerves, just nervous, confidence shot, lacking ideas, lacking creativity, and ultimately lacking productivity, which is how we're now in a situation where even kind of a point on the road, which at previous times in the season you might think, okay, point on the road, 4 points from 2 games, suck it up, move on. We're just waiting for this team to show us something and give us reason to really believe that they can make these playoffs. But ridiculously, it's still there for them.
It's still on.
It is still on. And maybe after the win on Friday, you might have thought, yeah, it's still on, and I can convince myself that. But after yesterday, I just feel really miserable about it, if I'm completely honest. Because,
I'd love to go back. If we could find a way of going back through all the podcasts we've done this season and find how many times we've used terms like lacking creativity and miserable and too nervy on the ball and, mental weakness, fragile, etc. I mean, it would be like a bingo board. It'd be pretty much every week. I mean, 2-0 up on Friday. I was like, woohoo, here we go. Town are going to win 4 or 5 here. The playoffs are still on, boys. We're in this. And then they go and Ipswich Town it up like only they can and struggle to a 2-1 win. And then that shit show at Rochdale. Rossi, you start pretty much every game day that you do with, oh, dearie me, what can we say about that? But that is a general reflection of the mood. How are you feeling after the unbeaten weekend?
I swear there's not many Easter weekends that are, been positive in the last decade supporting Town. Maybe the Newcastle, 2017 Hughes volley. I think that was probably the last. Because did we beat Burton or was it Bournemouth? We drew. I'm trying to think. It was the Good Friday game.
There was a draw with Bournemouth.
Yeah,
in there somewhere, and a victory over Burton.
One of those. So yeah, I just feel so meh about it all. Just that is the word to use. I think. I was in shock when we were 2-0 up. I was just like, I was looking across to all the other photographers, and I think we're just in shock that there's been 2 goals inside 11 minutes, and we thought, surely they're not going to go and score a few more here. And of course they didn't. Bristol Rovers, of course, poured a goal back, and the rest of the game was just us just looking at each other going, could we prefer to be somewhere else instead of this on a Good Friday? I just don't. I don't know. I just don't know what any words to use anymore. We've repeated the same thing, as you said. We can go back to all the podcasts, and just the same words are getting used every week. I'm sure you can have a screenshot of all our faces when we start the pod, and we're just miserable because that's the state of affairs at the moment. The new manager bounce is not a thing at Ipswich Town, which is a sad thing. Portsmouth for the Cowleys. Look at them; they're doing all right, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think that all comes back to just the pervading culture and atmosphere around the club. It is. Ipswich Town are a losing franchise. They have been for a long time. To take a turn for American sports, and it's going to take a hell of a lot more than changing the manager to turn that around. Hutchie, before the weekend, there were lots of quotes. I mean, they always talk a good game. Obviously, Chambers saying that they have to believe they can make the playoffs, and of course they do. What else are they going to say? They can't come out and say we're not up to this. To be fair, and Cook said that he's going to try everything that he can. And he did over the weekend, didn't he? He switched formations. He changed up the playing personnel. Was there anything you saw formation-wise? He went away from his favoured formation to a 3-5-2, wasn't it? He started and then to a 4-4-2. Any kind of glimmers of hope there, or what did you make of that?
In an attacking sense, not really. Look, they're a solid defensive unit at the back. The goal they conceded against Bristol Rovers was a bit of a freak one, wasn't it? With Andre Dazelle turning into trouble. I think there's only 3 defences in this league that are better than Ipswich this season in terms of goals conceded, and that's Hull, Hull, Sunderland, and Blackpool. So, as I said when we did our big kind of contract pod, the defence isn't really a problem in my mind. It's just scoring goals. They just haven't got the creativity, the bravery. I think that I don't know the exact number, but they're in the bottom 5 for goals scored, which is quite frankly ridiculous. It's embarrassing by this point of the season to be in the position that they're in terms of scoring goals. And I'll be honest, he did try everything. 3-5-2 was the starting formation for both of the games. He switched to 4-4-2 in both of those. A brief period, I think he went back to the 4-2-3-1 at Rochdale yesterday. Being completely honest, I don't think any of them, they look like scoring, being threatening more in any of them, to be completely honest, aside from that 10-minute blitz at the start of the game when obviously the first one's an own goal that's been kicked against Gwion Edwards' shin and then kicked into the back of the net off the post. And then the second one is Andre Dazelle slicing a shot from the edge of the box, which Alan Judge then had blocked before firing it in. So in terms of actually cutting teams open and attacking, I'll be completely honest, I didn't see anything different from those systems. He used all of his substitutes. He emptied the bench again at Rochdale. Even Aaron Drinan couldn't make things better. So
even Drizzy,
I know, and there we are. It's just no.
they just miss Norwood so much, don't they, Ross? I mean, Norwood is so important as a kind of attacking force, and that player who can manipulate and use the dark arts, which is a term I love. But without him, they're just toothless, aren't they?
Do you know what? I don't think this is not a new thing for Ipswich Town. The last since Daryl Murphy, we haven't really scored many goals. As Hutchie said, defensively, we're pretty solid. We don't concede many goals, but the last few seasons we've struggled to score goals basically and create chances. I know last year started, HS pissed the league, 100 goals, 100 points, but even back then we weren't scoring that many goals. Maybe 2-1s, stuff like that, 3-0s here and there, but we're not a really high-scoring team, are we? And as you said, with Norwood, we are toothless when we haven't got a recognised goal-scoring striker. Because Kane Jackson, he's not going to score goals. I know he was our joint top goal scorer last year, 11 goals, but that's still not many goals, really. 11 goals, Johnson and Clark Harris, he had 11 goals in his first 15 games or something like that. So I think that's been a problem for a while now, which I don't think, we've not sorted for last since Darren Murphy's left. We haven't got a goal scoring striker. I know Norwood was that striker when we signed him, but he hasn't been the man, unfortunately, because of injuries and players around him not being able to create chances. And I think that's the main problem Paul Cook need to look at, is scoring goals, because we just don't do that.
Paul Cook's in a really strange position, isn't he, Hutchie? Because with 8 games to go, Town are still in it. That they're obviously the results haven't been great since he's come in, but they're still only 3 points off the playoffs. And yet, you feel from what he's saying, he's kind of decided that he hasn't got the players with the quality that he wants and needs. So going forward, I'd imagine he's thinking already, I'm going to ship a lot of this lot out. But he has to kind of still put on a positive front, doesn't he? Because ultimately they are still in with a shout of making the playoffs. It's a weird situation.
I think let's be honest, I think he probably knew exactly what he was walking into in terms of the players. He's not just going to have taken this job on whatever day that was, February the 27th or whatever day. I think it was actually March the 2nd that he took the job. But when Lambert left, he didn't just suddenly take the job that day. He'll have watched. There's every chance he's watched every single game that Ipswich Town have played this season. He'd have known the players that he was coming into, and I'm sure he probably made decisions on a lot of those players that he was coming into. I also think he would probably agreed to come in and take this job with Ipswich much further adrift from the playoffs than he ultimately inherited them in, because of the upturn in results, strangely, in those final couple of games of the Lambert era, in inverted commas there, and then the win at Accrington almost kind of put the team in a completely different position to the one that he probably agreed to take over. I would hazard a guess, without knowing the exact timeline of when he agreed to take this job. So I'm not entirely convinced he felt he was genuinely coming into the serious kind of promotion battle that he has ultimately come into. I think these performances have been worse than some of the previous ones. I'm not in any shape or form suggesting that equates to any kind of pressure on Paul Cook, because that just simply isn't the case. But it's a bizarre situation, and you can tell from the way that Paul Cook answers questions, both to the club media and to the external media, that he knows he's in this strange old position, exactly as you've just described. One where, bizarrely, there's a playoff place which seemingly is there for the taking if they fancy taking it, but he probably deep down knows that he hasn't got the players. He hasn't got the players to do that. I think he's already worked out that he doesn't have the players to play the system that he rigidly wants to play, because he's moved away from it, and he won't have done that lightly, certainly.
Well, you mentioned the results there, but just before he came in, Hutchie, which kind of added a level of kind of enthusiasm and expectation to Cook coming in. They beat Hull and they beat Doncaster. Those, now, if you look at them as a season, they're like the outlier results. But what suddenly clicked in those games that hasn't for the rest of the season? Because that's the only time they've shown they can really compete with the top sides. They beat 2 in a row. Matt Gill was heavily involved with that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And can you put your finger on anything there? Why was that? How did they manage that? And now they're being ranked bad away at Rochdale.
Well, stylistically, it was a bit more kind of back to basics. That was how they did that. It was a bit more front to back, a bit more physical. They had James Norwood in the side, which clearly helps. He scored in both of those games. They had the kind of the veteran defence of Chambers, Wilson, Enciala. I think Kenlock was in there as well, and they stuck with the same team for a few games, a bit more rustic up front with Troy Parrott and James Norwood, who were a bit more hustle and bustle, and it was just a real back to basics kind of front to back, not trying to overplay, not trying to do anything that's beyond the players. Just it was I guess the best way to describe it is it was comfort zone football, and I don't necessarily think that that's something that any new manager would want to come in and start playing, especially a manager that's got such a clear philosophy like Paul Cook, who clearly is a man that knows what he wants and knows what gets him success. So of course he's going to come in and try and implement that. In theory, he would hope that he's got the players to do it, but he's worked out that he hasn't, and here we are, sort of mixing and matching again, trying to find something that suits these players for what is now an 8-game season. But you're right, that little period now seems like a little outlier in an ocean of rubbish.
Yeah, which sadly is like the actual ocean full of rubbish.
Yeah.
Boys, I want to ask you 2 more questions, one each, on a peek behind the curtain tip before we go to MBQ, and then I want to finish the show talking about the 8 cup finals that Town have left and how you'd approach the rest of the season. Roscoe, peek behind the curtain time. You are in a privileged position, pitch side, at a time when fans can't go to games. We've talked a lot about how fragile the Ipswich Town side are, how quiet they are. Can you, when you're sitting literally meters away from them, can you see those signs of mental fragility? I mean, are they shouting at each other, or are they kind of shrugging their shoulders? You said earlier they kind of gave the impression they didn't really want to be there.
I wouldn't say that. I think at the end of the day, they're in a privileged position of being professional footballers. Of course, a League One and Ipswich Town not playing very well. I don't know. They have lost that energy, that positivity they had early in the season when they were doing the, all that sort of stuff. Those sort of celebrations. But yeah, there's not. I don't know. Chambers has lost that vocal side of him. I think I would say he's given up. I don't think they've given up. I think they're just so, I wouldn't say frail, but they're just
Is there anyone out there kind of demanding better of them? You want someone to kind of grab them by the scruff of the neck and fire everyone up and say, "Come on, boy! This is Rochdale. we can beat this lot." I was staggered. Again, I guess he's not going to say anything different. But Alan Judge, the club, put out a clip of him saying it's a good point at Rochdale, which did him no favours at all. Is there anyone kind of literally grabbing people and dragging them by their bootstraps out there?
Not really. There's not. Hutch, I know you're in a different position to me for home games, but I know the thing is we can hear them more. But I don't know. They're just saying what they normally would say in a game, but they're not. I don't know. They're not like getting a Dazelle. Someone picking up Dazelle and go, "Come on, let's go here." I think they're just. I'm sure the atmosphere, if fans are in there, I think maybe they would be more up for it, they'd be more pumped up for it. But I think now, because it's been so many months, it's been a year now since they've not been able to play in front of fans. I think it's, I don't know, it's the norm now for them just to have no atmosphere and just play in silence. They're probably the only time they're passionate is with the referee, probably, about a bad decision or something.
I understand that as a professional athlete, you're used to playing in front of fans and you feed off the fans, but everyone's in the same boat. And if you can't get up for games like this with, playoffs on the line, that's a worrying sign if no one's really kind of firing each other up and demanding better of each other, really. Hutchie, I wanted to ask you as well on a peek behind the curtain tip. You had a guest viewer with you, just a row behind you or two. The owner of the club could buy himself 1,000 Ferraris and burn them if he fancied it. Marcus Evans, what was it like watching football with Marcus Evans, and what's he like watching the game? Is he effing and jeffing at the ref?
Without the Fs and the Jeffs, there are some comments towards the referee.
Bloody hell, ref! Come on.
He's just like, it was overall the whole thing was completely bizarre, really, because Marcus Evans was sat sort of basically a seat away over my right shoulder in an empty sort of stand, and then Stu and I were essentially sitting on the Ipswich Town subs bench,
right,
as well. So directly in front of me, and every time he moved his head, David Cornell's man bun was rocking my laptop backwards and forwards. So it was a fascinating experience, really. It's disappointing that there wasn't an Ipswich goal. I'd like to have seen how Marcus had reacted to that, but I think he's just like any other kind of football fan, really. There's different kinds of fans, aren't there? There are people that enjoy sort of banners and bouncing and flags and songs, and there are others who enjoy watching the game, sort of chattering along to the person that they're with. Marcus was the latter. There's so many football fans. It's just really similar to a lot of football fans. Like every time someone got the ball, like, go on, Judgy. If a pass didn't connect, it was kind of like, oh, it's like
he's not getting a new contract.
Not quite. Yeah, just clearly invested in the game, and in a kind of reserved way that you'd expect a man like him to be invested in a game at Rochdale on Easter Monday. I
mean, Marcus Evans has got lots of other things you can be doing with his time. The man has a house in Barbados. Yet he chose to spend his Easter Monday watching Town at Rochdale in person. Is that the kind of actions you'd expect of someone who is on the verge of selling the club, Hutchie? He certainly, by what you're saying, he's very much invested still in what's going on the pitch.
Yeah. It wouldn't, without going massively into obviously all the talk of the takeover. It's not probably not what I'd be doing if I was selling it in the next few days. It's not kind of an emotional goodbye either. Going to Rochdale to sit in an empty ground in Rochdale isn't kind of like one last hurrah. But he's been at loads of games recently. He was at Wigan. He's been at Portsmouth. He had a long meeting with Paul Cook after this game where all sorts would have been discussed. Would love to have been a fly on the wall for that. But yeah, he's consistently been at these games, and I think you can clearly question a lot of his decision making, and we have done, and we will do again, I'm sure. But to say he's completely given up on it would be wrong, because you need a really good reason to go to Rochdale on an Easter Monday. Ultimately, he was there and probably didn't find a good reason why he was there, but he was. So, but a fascinating experience to sit there. I picked up his hat for him. It blew off his head.
Is it made of gold?
It felt expensive. Very high thread count in this.
Yeah.
This kind
what does a man worth so much money use as a face mask? He's just got £100 note across his face.
He wasn't wearing one.
What? Unbelievable.
Oh no, that's yeah. We'll keep that quiet. But no, he wasn't wearing one. But yeah, he just stitched together some $100 bills. Just
superb. Right then, boys. I want to move on, and I want to move on to Mark's big question. There you go. For those of you watching on video, you just got a peek behind the scenes because I'm assuming we didn't play the intro in over the video, so you just saw us sitting in silence for a minute, or less than that, 10 seconds while that played. Boys, in honour of Ipswich Town. This week's question is, I want to know, give me some examples of a time when you've seriously overestimated your ability, because clearly that's what we've all been doing for Town for the last couple of seasons. Have you got any starters? Because I've got a few I can kick off with if you'd like.
I've got one if you want it.
Go with it.
Clay pigeon shooting. Easy, right?
That's one of mine as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow. I assume you're like me. You think you've got good hand-eye coordination. I'm good at the royal sport of darts. Good at tennis. World-class catcher. I cannot do clay pigeon shooting. Absolutely woeful. Didn't listen to the instructor because I thought this was easy. Missed every single one of them. I think this was probably on some kind of stag do 10 years ago or so, but absolutely woeful. Embarrassed myself and just didn't give it the respect and attention that I deserved. Dreadful.
Yeah, I think for me, all of my kind of overestimating my abilities come with kind of physical challenges. I think it was Gandhi, wasn't it, who said the secret to life. The secret to life is to know oneself, and I think as you get older, you realise how true that is. And I think in most spheres of my life, I'm fairly self-aware. I know, for example, that I'm terrible at DIY, so I'm going to pay someone to do something if it needs doing. I'm not going to attempt to read a map because for some reason I can't read a map, and you don't need to anyway because there are things called sat-navs these days. All that kind of practical stuff I know I'm terrible at, so I don't do it. But when it comes to physical challenges, like I guess most men, broadly brushing with the stereotype, I kind of walk in with the swagger of Conor McGregor, thinking, yeah, no problem, mate. This is well easy. I can do this. And so there are several times, I think I've spoken before about my complete failure to be able to even do the basics of water skiing in Mauritius when I was dragged back into the beach like a drowned dolphin, did the drag of shame onto the beach. Useless at that. Clay pigeon shooting, me and my missus went for a weekend away at one of these kind of outdoor sport things, and we decided we're going to have a competition. Mainly I decided because clearly I was going to wipe the floor with her at everything. So we did clay pigeon shooting, we did archery, we did orienteering, and we did other stuff. And literally by the end of the weekend, I was a broken man. She beat me at everything. Clay pigeon shooting, I could not. I thought, well, it's all right. It's just like playing the computer, isn't it? Just point and shoot. But it's so difficult, isn't it, Hutchie? Because you have to kind of monitor the trajectory of the what's it called,
the clay,
the clay, and kind of then predict where it's going to be, while at the same time trying to lift your weapon and aim it accurately as to where you think it's going to be. Dreadful at it. Archery the same. Dreadful. She ended up, actually, this was humiliating. She ended up, the whole weekend came down to a crazy golf competition, which again I was losing, and she threw it to make me feel better at the end. She took like 14 on the final hole when all she needed to do was basically get 10 or something. And she did it deliberately, I think, which made me feel even worse about myself.
That's a bit pathetic, isn't it? No,
absolutely. And the other thing I was really bad at when I tried was mountain biking. Again, you think that's just dead easy. I mean, Hutchie, you're a cyclist, so you'll relate to this. This is dead easy, no problem at all. Let's go to Thetford Forest and have a race, shall we, Liz? First of all, I hadn't factored in that if you're a male and you're not used to riding a bike, and you don't have padded shorts, riding a mountain bike along kind of potholes and bouncing areas is extremely painful. And I remember she actually ended up waiting for me as I kind of lamentably picked my way down this potholed hill, exclaiming and profaning with every bump because my knackers were in bits, boys. I'm not going to mess around. Yeah, I was a pathetic specimen again with the missus waiting for me. Hutchie, do you, as a cyclist, do your old chaps eventually adapt?
You get the padded shorts and you're fine. I've got a nice pair of paddies. Got 2 pairs actually. Yeah, you'll be fine. You need to find a different saddle potentially.
Yeah.
And maybe sit a little further back on it. What else can I offer you?
You
just need to have trust in your bike.
It's like I was sitting on a blade. It was so painful. Anyway, Rossi, how about you? You're a man of many, many talents. I'm sure you've never really overestimated your ability doing anything, apart from, of course, your ability to pronounce names, which you frequently overestimate.
I'm really hoping he's not going to tell us he's picked up a gun. Because that's going to...
I've done archery. I weren't too bad at archery.
Yeah.
Got a bullseye once. It's another physical activity, and this is recent as well. This is a year ago now. So this is when lockdown sort of was gone, and it was for Sasha's birthday. She booked, climb. It's a climb in Ipswich.
Yeah.
There's a rock climbing thing.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to be the dog's bollocks. I thought, I walked in. I thought, yeah, I'm going to be the man for this. I've done rock climbing before. I've done it before, but. And of course, there's kids about as well. And I was thinking, yeah, I'm going to climb as far as these kids. No problem.
Yeah.
And no. There's a few I don't know. I just kept climbing. I went, I don't know. I just can't go any further. And then this other kid right next to me was just like
a child.
A child, yeah, like probably an 8-year-old, just like, oh.
Yeah.
And I was scared as well. I'm happy to say I was scared to, when you have to jump
height?
down.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm not scared of heights, but just jumping down and doing, because once again I'm thinking of my my bollocks, because it does actually hurt you a little bit when you have to jump and then like that.
You've got the harness, haven't you, around the chaps?
Harness, yeah. So yeah, I felt I was going to be every obstacle. I thought was going to be get right at the top, hit the button, because when you hit the button, that then brings you down. But
right.
I think I only did one. I think, but the rest. I was trying to impress Sasha, and I don't think I didn't impress her at all, because all the other 8-year-olds around us were beating me very much so. So
why is it, boys? It's a male gene, isn't it? It's this kind of thing that most blokes seem to have, this massive overestimation of their own physical prowess.
Well, both of you boys there have been trying to impress women, and that's where you've fallen down. I learned not to try and impress my wife in any way whatsoever, and that's served me absolutely fine. She has no expectation of me now. It's great.
Go. What you want to do is lower expectations.
Exactly. Lower the expectations.
That's the key to a happy marriage. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Because boys, when you do something reasonably good, you're in the money. You're in credit. You got
brownie points.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go, boys. We've learnt there then that we all are pathetic men. Let's move on. Boys, I want to talk about the rest of the season now. There's 8 games left. First of all, Hutchie, I want to come to you. On this show a couple of weeks ago, we all went round the table, virtually, obviously. There's no longer a table that we can sit around safely. And me, Stewie and Roscoe all said, nah, mate, they're not going to make the playoffs. No chance. And you said, yes, by Jove, they will make the playoffs. I tell you, I beseech thee, they will make the playoffs. Are you still confident?
That was 4 games. When was it? When I don't know if this was before or after Fleetwood, but it was at least 4 games ago. They've let me down in that time, big time. In my mind, they should. I thought they'd probably lose the Portsmouth game, but I also thought they'd win at Wigan and possibly Rochdale as well. So in my mind, they should have been in the top 6 at this point, and then I'd still be thinking they've got a chance of getting in there because this league's dreadful. But they've made 0 progress over those 4 games. I'm not sitting here now feeling confident they're going to make those playoffs at all. They've let me down. I was expecting to see some form of progress in 4 matches. Cook's had 8 now, and I think if we were going to see sort of the rocket launcher start under a new manager, we'd have seen that by now. So I'm probably back in the pack now, back in the pessimistic pack with everybody else.
So you're saying no?
they're going to have to prove it to me now. I still think they can.
Well, they can, of course.
Absolutely, they can, because the league's dreadful. The teams they're playing are poor, but Ipswich Town have proved themselves to be nothing more than poor in those last over the piece in those last 4 games. I was genuinely expecting some real progress from them in that time. They've got more injuries in that time. They've lost Norwood again, so I'm not in the optimistic camp anymore. I still think they can though, and I'm not gonna rule them out. But
you're using interesting terminology there, because of course they can, mathematically they can, but will they? Are you saying they will or they won't?
Well, I don't think they will, no. And I'm not sure I was quite as strong as you're suggesting on it a few weeks ago either. But
I recall it as guaranteeing, staking your life.
Yeah, okay. Well, I might cash out. If I'd staked my life on it, then I'm probably going to cash out and sort of reclaim a small portion of my immense wealth and life. I would not be putting any money whatsoever on them to make the playoffs from here. But we will see.
Can. Roscoe, you weren't involved in the contract chat as well, which I want to get your views on. And I'm going to come back to you on this as well, Hutchie, because I'll be interested to know if you changed your mind on any players there. But of the 13 players, Roscoe, the first team players, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. How many of those players would you keep off the top of your head?
Not many of them, but then also we still need a squad for next season, because I don't know how many players Paul Cook's going to be able to get in. I think you got to look at maybe the core of the team. Like, I think defensively we've been, as Hutchie said, we have been solid. So maybe you keep Toto.
Wilson, Chambers. What are you saying?
Chambers not for me. I don't want people over 30 really in our squad, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I know that.
What about in your place of work? How do you feel about that?
We need experience still. So
experience and leadership. Yeah.
That's
saying you don't want people over the age of 30 in your side is what a 24-year-old would say. You're not that far away, my friend. Just you wait until it hits you, and then you're like, hold on, I'm not ancient just because I'm 30. Anyway, carry on.
I'll still maybe keep Jackson, Edwards, because at the end of the day, we've spent money on them, so the value there. Who else we got? Bishop is a strange one, really. I think out of the 13, maybe 4. Keep 4 of them, but it's just.
Which would you keep though? So you said Jackson, Edwards. Obviously, going to keep Edwards. Toto, Wilson.
James Wilson's 32, by the way. If under your age,
I'm not keeping Wilson. I know
you're not keeping Wilson.
No, okay. I think once again he's over 30. I think we need a refresh. 28. Something like that.
So he's very much within the limit of Ross's age bracket. So you're keeping Toto, you're keeping Edwards,
Edwards.
That's 3.
I think who are the other players?
Alan Judge.
He's in his 30s as well, isn't he?
You're literally going by age. That's it.
I'll just keep them 3. I haven't really thought this through properly. I was going to keep Bishop, but I think he could be one of the problems as well. I think he's so.
So you're keeping 3.
On top of my head, yeah.
Actually, have you changed your thinking since we had this chat? Of any of them?
Not really. I said I'd keep all 3 of the centre backs. I still would. I get the clamour for a complete and utter rebuild. I get that, but that's really tough to do in the summer. So I would, in terms of the centre backs, I'd stick. I said yes to Chambers. I'd still say yes. I said thumbs in the middle for Cole Skews, I think, but based on an ability to win a contract over these last few games. He's not played since. So that's not going so well for him. Stephen Ward would be a no. Janoy Donatian would still be a yes for the reasons we talked about before.
Janoy. Yeah, I've got that. Janoy. He's not in his 30s, is he? He's 28, probably 29.
No, he's. I think he's maybe 27. So you could even give him a 3-year deal and you'd be comfortable. Edwards, I said no, and I still stick by that. James Wilson, I said yes. Obviously, Sears would be a no. Hughes, no. Drynan, no. The one I am maybe wavering on a little bit is Caden Jackson. We talked about the issues, haven't we, about the fee that was paid out for him and how tough that would be for the cord to be cut. But it's abundantly clear they're not creating enough. They're not looking threatening enough with the group of strikers that they've got. Whether that's one that needs to change, I don't know. He's maybe gone from a tick to a thumb. He's maybe gone from a thumbs up to a that sort of on the way down. But Bishop, I was in the middle on, wasn't I? I think you two both said a thumbs up. I'd love Ipswich Town to keep Teddy Bishop, but I really, although he's made a few steps forwards, I don't think he's what Paul Cook wants in that position. Whether that means it's the right thing to let him know, I'm not let him go. I'm not sure I'd agree with that. I think he's a player that has something different and can offer something different that not many midfield players had. I think he played really well against Bristol Rovers, and I'd like Ipswich to keep him, but I fear that he's the one that might get released that would maybe raise a few eyebrows out of these. I hope I'm wrong, because I like him as a football player and I want to see Ipswich find a way to use him. But I don't think I've changed my mind on any of these, really. Just solidified a few of them, mostly in the attacking third of the pitch. Complete rebuild.
The one that's going to be really interesting in terms of a statement is Chambers, isn't it? If they get rid of Chambers, then that is like literally pressing the reset button. And a lot of people have different views. Me and Roscoe think he needs to go. You and Stewie say keep him. So we shall see.
He's still performing. And I don't necessarily buy the overall argument of him being the problem. I think he's been dragged down to the level of a lot of the other players. That's how I feel about it. He's still performing. He's still playing every week. I thought he was their best player yesterday. And they're not. I don't think defensively they're a problem. I think you could get him a new lease of life potentially. If you still think he's a good enough football player, which I think he is, I think you could get a new lease of life out of him by giving him kind of a new group to be a part of. I think that could re-energize him. I think it's just all too stale. But he's a player that I still think can do a job for them for one more year. So I wouldn't be letting him out the door.
Do you know what? I don't dispute that he can still do a job as a player. Like, he clearly is, as we've said, the defence isn't really the problem, and he's played a lot of games this season and generally done all right. But my issue, as I've always said with him, is the power that he wields and the culture that he helps build and kind of enforce, which is a losing culture. And I don't think you can change that approach if you keep him. We've said this before anyway. What I do enjoy, though, is we talked last week about the Moneyball approach that Town are now trumpeting, stats and analysis. Roscoe just going with one very simple stat. Is he 30 or not? Right. That's all the analysis we need. He is 30 and over. Get rid of him.
If he's closer to 40.
Yeah. If he's under 30, keep him. But Ross, he scored 35 goals this season. He's 31. Out the door. Get rid of him. Well then, Hutchie, I want to put you in Paul Cook's shoes. Big shoes, I'd imagine they are. Is he a big man? I don't know. I've never seen.
Not particularly. He's I don't know. I want to say he's maybe 5'10".
Average size.
Taller than me. Yep.
Well, yeah, but you are probably under the average, I would say, unfortunately.
As we've discussed many times, I am the average height for a male from Bangladesh, and that is where I'm at.
Is that with or without the lifts?
Natural. That's mine. That's my pure nature. This is how nature made me.
8 games left. Hutchie, you're in charge. Paul Cook, what are you doing? What formation are you playing? Who are you trying to play? What are you going to do?
I think he's seen enough from these systems he's tried over the last couple of games to see that it's not made much of a difference. So I think I'm going back to the system that I know and the system that I feel comfortable coaching, which is the 4-2-3-1. I don't think they've. Maybe I'd be tempted to give it one more go with wing backs with Kenlock as the left-sided wing back instead of Stephen Ward, who just hasn't got the legs to do that job. Maybe the MK Dons game that gets one more go with some good legs on that left flank. He's a good athletically, Miles Kenlock. So Miles Kennel and Josh Harrop also did a very good job yesterday at Rochdale of picking up Stu's notes, which he'd run out of space in his notebooks. As he got in the car yesterday morning, he just had this load of A4 paper that he was ripping up into small bits. He's a big note taker, is Stu. Yeah. Me, all up here.
What's he taking notes on?
Just points in the game and things like that. There's different ways of doing it. But the wind kept blowing them off down into the subs bench. So between Miles and Josh Harrop, they were like picking up his shorthand notes and looking at it and probably thought, "What on earth is this?
Yeah,
what's this guy just been squiggling absolute nonsense down on a bit of paper?" So I'd get Miles off the bench. I'd get him in the team. I'd maybe give the wing backs thing a go. If James Norwood is fit, I would. If he was fit, I'd be tempted to go back to the 4-2-3-1. There's hope that Vincent Young and Flynn Downs could be fit for the weekend game, potentially. There'd be risks, but it's maybe time to take a risk. I'd be probably pushing them, maybe from the bench to start with. But probably I'd ultimately land back at the 4-2-3-1 that he's comfortable coaching. And maybe just and the system they've done the majority of their work together on so far, because honestly, I don't think these other system changes made an awful lot of difference to what Ipswich were able to do. So, yeah, I'd probably go with that and just go by my principles. If I was Paul Cook, if this team's going to go down, at least they're going to go down with me confidently trying to coach them in the system that I believe in. They'll answer the questions about whether they fit long term as well in that time, because they'll be playing in the roles that Cook will see them playing long term if they're kept around. So I'd do that, and I'd just see where it gets me, if I'm completely honest.
That could have been dead awkward, couldn't it, with Stewie's notes blowing into the town bench if he'd written like, "This game definitely doesn't need Kenlock," or "Harrop's dreadful," that kind of thing. Maybe a good job there. Maybe a good job there in shorthand. Roscoe, in terms of the way forward, should any of the loan players, and really it's only Troy Parrott's been playing consistently, should any of them be playing now for the rest of the season? Is there any point?
We've still got to pay half of their wages or whatever it is, so I'll still probably play Troy Parrott. Josh Harrop, I feel sorry for him a little bit, because I feel like he's got ability. He's proven he has got ability, but he hasn't really had the chance to really do what he needs to do to create stuff. So maybe just them two, like Mark McGuinness. Don't think he will probably play again. Who else is there?
Keenan Bennett, Luke Matheson.
Like Luke Matheson was a fantastic signing, but he's had injuries, hasn't he? So maybe, I don't know, possibly not. I'm sure Paul Cook wants to see what these players who are out of contract, to see what they can do for the final 8 games, and then he will decide on which ones will get a chance. So maybe not play the loan players, play these players to see if they've got enough to earn a contract. I want to quickly go back. I'm not ageist, by the way. I think you guys are in your peak of your prime. Not even hit your prime yet in your journalistic
Yeah.
I think like people like John Watson, the commentator, I think he should stop now. He's 75. I think when you hit that sort of age, you should stop now. So you got many years.
John, you're not
Watson.
Oh, I thought you said Watson. I thought you were slagging off the battalion leader there. Unbelievable.
No.
You're not ageist, but you will draw the line at 75.
Yeah, that is too old.
Okay. Okay.
Should be retiring now.
Yeah. You know. I on a side note, I once interviewed John Watson, and it was one of the most bizarre experiences of my life, because John Watson, obviously, an iconic voice, but everything he says when you're interviewing him is in John Watson voice, which is really odd when you're just kind of making small talk, and it's like he's commentating on a football game at you at all times. Anyway, I digress. Bloody nice bloke, Suffolk link as well. Went to Colford, of course. John Watson, an old Colfordian. Hutchie, loan players, where do you stand on that? Because my thinking is, what's the point? I know, just send them back. That Cook surely needs to establish what he's got, doesn't he?
If you're going to say that about loan players, you can say that about the players that are out of contract as well. I don't think you're in the position now to be just saying no. If you think they can add something to the team, even that little bit more, than, for argument's sake, if you think Mark McGuinness can offer you that little bit more at centre half than Toto and Siala, which I disagree with. I don't think that would be the case at all. But if Cook felt like that, then you play Mark McGuinness. This is an 8-game shootout to try and get into the playoffs and then back to the Championship. So no, I wouldn't be doing that with the lone players just yet. Say it all fizzles out completely and it's done with 3 games to go, then that's when you start making those decisions potentially. But while there's something to play for, no, I wouldn't be at all. Saying that, they're not adding something more to the team, are they? so on that basis, they wouldn't be necessarily in my starting 11 aside from Troy Parrott, who would have a fair shout of that. The others probably not, but I certainly wouldn't just be writing them off completely because they're on loan. You're loanist, you are.
I am very much so. Right then, boys. Normally we try and finish on a high, and last season talking about the ladies' side was very much finishing on a high, Ross, because they were doing all sorts, making history, and they've obviously had a very strange season again this season. And they played their first game on Sunday for, I think it was 112 days because of COVID. The FA Cup, Women's FA Cup, still on. They got to the 5th round last season, made history. Obviously ended up losing to Manchester City, all conquering Manchester City. But on Sunday, they were back in action, and unfortunately they lost to Billericay. Not quite Steph Houghton, etc. Just talk us through the game on Sunday.
Lovely sunny day in Essex, I have to say that. If you've ever been to the Billericay ground, it's actually not bad. Not a bad little setup there. Of course, you know, the former owner, who was a bit of a mentalist, Glenn Suffin.
Tamplin.
That's the one. So, you know, there's a decent setup there. It was just nice to be back. I'm sure the players there, they've been keen to play some football again, competitive football as well. The FA Cup, it just wasn't their day. And it's bad to say this, but Billericay wanted it more. You know, at the end of the day, at the moment, Ipswich Town Women in our league, in our area, we are the team to beat. And they beat us. And 2-1. We took the lead. A fantastic strike. It was live streamed as well, so a lot of fans were able to watch it. And then Billericay then equalised, and then I think the 86th minute they won the game 2-1. And we at one stage I thought, we could possibly get an equaliser here, go to extra time, but just wasn't at it. Once again, just didn't take them clear-cut chances, weren't ruthless enough, and unfortunately, Billericay wanted it more, and in a way, they maybe deserved it in the overall aspect of the game. Really
good to see Amanda Crump back on the pitch, though.
Yeah, she's a machine, really, because that's the second time where she's had a baby and she's straight away been on it, getting fit again. Like last time, when her first baby she had, I think it was 6 weeks, and she was playing again. So wow. Sort of like this time, of course, it's been COVID and lockdown. She's not been able to have that opportunity to play a game, but she is a machine. And it was great to see her back. I think that's the positive of it. And I think just overall, I think all the players are just happy to be back. And it's just a shame that, you know, their competitive football has now been scratched now, and it's gone now because, you know, they're going to be playing Cardiff for Oxford in the next round, and then the next round was Charlton because all the draws were sorted.
Charlton.
So Charlton.
Bloody hell, go and play Charlton. So essentially now their season's over. They've got a few friendlies, have they? You were saying they're going to play Southampton, or? Yeah,
so that's not confirmed yet.
Whoops.
But I think, so I think they're going to hopefully play a few friendlies just to play some games before getting ready for next year, because it's still up in the air if they're going to play in third-tier football. Because I think two years back-to-back, they've been just destroying the league they're in. So I think they need to get the opportunity to play the next step up, basically. So we'll find out when we find out.
Superb. Hutchie, anything else to mention before we take our leave?
No other business, no. Nothing.
No other business. What is the shirt hanging on your door, by the way? Because you've got shirts framed around you, and I noticed just over your shoulder there's is it a Town shirt that's hanging?
No. I'm struggling to know which way to lean. Right.
It's a goalkeeper shirt, is that?
Yeah. That's a Swindon Town goalkeeper shirt that I've just got out of my storage box, which I got given by a Swindon Town goalkeeper.
Why have you just decided to get it out? Are you framing it?
No, I'm just sorting out. Just having a sort out, getting rid of some. Not that one, but it's just uncreasing on a hanger, and that is where I hung it.
Fair enough.
Very, very, very good goalkeeper. He was Wes Foderingham, who's currently on the bench for Sheffield United, but he's better than that. Should be playing somewhere. He used to play for Rangers.
There you go, Wes. And Roscoe, before we go, another Ross Meets was out on Sunday morning. Tommy Smith. Just tell people what you chatted about so they can go and listen to that if they haven't already.
Work permits weren't involved, so do not worry about that. But no, it was it's just good to chat to him. Currently he's at Colchester. I actually spoke to him while he was in a hotel in Morecambe, an empty hotel, preparing for a game. So that was very glamorous. But yeah, we spoke about a range of things during his time at the club. Spoke about his early days in New Zealand. That was interesting because he was born in England. He was here for 8 years, and then he went to New Zealand with his family, and then of course travelling to Ipswich on a trial, and he then signed, and he made over 200 plus appearances. And yeah, we spoke about the highs and the lows during his career. Roy Keane, Paul Jewell, Mick McCarthy, of course, Jim Agilton briefly. And then his little trip to Colorado. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Hutchie?
I have a question.
Yes.
Which tournament did Tommy Smith come up against Cristiano Ronaldo? What was the name of the tournament where he played against Portugal?
Coderate, no. Coderface, I don't know. Tommy had to.
He helped you out.
He helped me out. Yeah.
He helped you out a lot. The Confederations Cup.
Yeah, that was it. I was going to edit that bit out, but I thought, we've got to keep it in. But yeah, little people.
It was very good. You should listen to it. It was very good.
Yeah, go back and listen to that. That's episode 2 of season 3, isn't it, Roscoe? Luke Hyam kicked off episode 3. So you've done Luke Hyam, of course, Jamie Peters in the work permits. And now Tommy Smith. So go back and listen to those if you've not already. Follow us on all our social medias, Kings of Anglia on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Leave us a 5-star review, please, if you can on iTunes, because that helps us greatly with the visibility in the iTunes chart and helps more people uncover and discover this gold that we put out twice or 3 times a week. And also, obviously, tell your friends about us if they haven't listened to us yet. That would be superb. Boys, I suppose we better take our leave, go back to our daily jobs, and start writing and thinking more about Ipswich Town. I hope you have a great start to the week. We'll hopefully be back on Thursday with our second show, looking ahead to the weekend, and there'll also be, obviously, the Game Day Extra Time posse later on this week as well. So thanks very much for listening, and we'll speak to you again next time.